Welcome everybody on this Monday afternoon. My name's Claire. I'll be hanging out in the chat with you. Hopefully you are all here to learn how to fix some mistakes in your knitting, whether you actually made them or you just want to have some preventative learning in place. Darrin is our teacher there, showing off his terrible swatch on screen. Oh no, what's happened there? If you have any questions during the course of class, go ahead and put them in the chat. I can either answer them there directly or I will pass them on to Darrin so he can demonstrate on screen for us. And I'll also go ahead and put the handout in the chat in case you need that again. And now that that is out of the way, we can let Darrin take over.
All right, welcome to class, everybody. Today, we're going to learn how to fix mistakes, some really common mistakes that happen in knitting. And especially if you're a new knitter, then it's really going to empower you to be able to be in charge of your knitting and take control. And even a lot of experienced knitters don't know how to fix all of these mistakes. So if you are a new knitter and you're learning how to fix these mistakes, then it's really going to advance your skills quite a bit. It's going to elevate your skill level and make it so that you're much more proficient in like understanding your knitting, understanding like why things are happening, how to fix them, and you'll be able to look at your work and instantly know like what went wrong and how do I fix it. So today in class, I'm going to be demonstrating with, I like to use Hometown Bonus Bundle for demonstrating because it's such a nice thick yarn, it's smooth, and it shows up really nice on camera. It comes in a lot of really great colors. It's either on, you can find it on lionbrand.com or also on michaels.com. And you know, just check and see if your favorite color is available because there's so many great colors. I'm sure you'll find one that you like. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and switch to the view of my hands and we'll go ahead and get started. Pull my computer closer so we can hear. Okay, so this swatch clearly has a lot of, so honestly, if this were really a swatch I was working on, I would probably just do this and just throw it away because it has too many problems going on. But if you are, the first thing I want to show you is how to unknit. So sometimes if you are working on a narrow, like a scarf, or something that doesn't have a lot of stitches, or maybe you just made a mistake like a couple of stitches back and you want to go back and fix that, it's very easy to unknit your work and go back and fix things. So let me show you how to do that. So when you're knitting, you're holding your work like this. You knit a stitch on the left, and then you transfer it over to your right hand. So this is normal knitting. And whenever you are unknitting, you want to make sure that you're holding your knitting exactly the same way you held it when you made the stitches. So unmaking them, you want to hold your knitting the same way. So sometimes the temptation when you're unknitting, the temptation is to turn your work and go back the same direction, but that's not how we're going to do it. So you want to hold your work the same way that it was when you made your stitches. So I'm just going to knit this stitch. And then I realized, oh no, back here, I have a mistake. So I'm going to unknit. So to unknit, what you want to do is take your working yarn in your finger like this, just kind of pull it and hold kind of underneath that stitch on your needle. And what that does is that opens up this window. So you end up with this little space, and then you want to take your knitting needle, your left-hand needle, and go right through that space, pull the right-hand needle out and let that stitch unravel. And that is going to make your work, and it's going to make it so that your stitches are positioned correctly on your knitting needle. And we're going to look at twisted stitches here in a little bit, but if you do it correctly the way I'm showing you, then you'll be able to unknit your work and maintain the integrity of your stitches so that they're not twisted. And we'll look more at that in just a few minutes. So you pull your working yarn to open up that window, and then you go front to back, always front to back through the stitch right underneath of it. And then you just kind of unravel as you go. Okay, any questions about unknitting? I encourage everybody, if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask the questions, because sometimes it's hard to see exactly what's going on video. So if you do have questions, so unknitting, you go front to back, just like that, okay? Any questions at all? And then now you can fix whatever happened, whatever was wrong, and then you can continue on with your work. Okay. Feel good about it?
And you were holding the yarn there in your left hand, Darrin, but if you knit with it in your right hand, you would just hold it the same way.
Same way. So just kind of put tension on your working yarn, just tension your working yarn, and then you can kind of open up that window and then just go through it. So it doesn't matter where you're holding your yarn in your right or your left hand. The most important thing is to hold your work the same way you held it when you created your stitches, and to enter that stitch right below it, front to back. These are the two more important situations. And this swatch also has several problems. I've knitted into it, so. Okay, any questions? Does that answer that question?
That answers it, thank you.
Okay, all right, so here, you can see here, there's a big problem. I split my yarn, and then instead of just splitting my yarn, that split actually got carried up to the stitch above it. So that's a big mistake. That looks awful. So let's fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that stitch drop off my needle, and that's what it's called, a dropped stitch, because it dropped off of my needle. But I'm doing it on purpose. So I'm going to unravel down past the mistake. And here's a twisted stitch right here. Let's look at that really close. So that is a twisted stitch. It's isolated. You can see how the right leg crosses over the left leg, and it actually looks like it's crossed. So it's actually twisted. If you look at a stitch that is not twisted, you can see the right leg and the left leg are not crossing over each other. They're coming straight down. So that's a proper stitch. And then a twisted stitch, I can't separate them because they're twisted together. So like the proper stitch that's done, that you can separate the two sides of the stitch, but the twisted one cannot be separated. Now, I did these on purpose, but if you wrap your yarn in the wrong direction, or if you knit in the back loop instead of the front loop, there's lots of ways you can get a twisted stitch by mistake, but they're really easy to fix. So I'm just going to unravel down past that twisted stitch. Okay. Let's see if we can't fix this and make it look nicer. So I have this little crochet hook. So what I'm going to do is you find the loop on the bottom, and you go through that loop with your crochet hook. You want to make sure that you're not missing one. So it's really easy. Sometimes they can get pushed down. You want to make sure that you're getting the one on the very bottom, and you just pull it back through. When I split my yarn, hold this loop, and then you just pull it back through. And then you go to the next one. It's almost like climbing up the rungs of a ladder. And here's the one that was originally split. So I'm going to fix that one. And then fix this one. And go clear up to the very top. So now I've got this active loop right here, and I need to put it on my knitting needle. So what you want to do to make sure that you're not twisting it is you want to put the left leg in the back and the right leg in the front. So you want to put it on like this. And so now it's not twisted and it's ready to be knitted, when it comes its turn. Okay? So that's how you can drop a stitch to fix mistakes that you've made previously. Or if you're just knitting, like say, maybe I put this down in my knitting bag and I take it out and I was like, oh no, I'm dropping stitches. Like that's a big mess. So if they fall off by accident, you just merely fix them the same way. You want to make sure you're getting the one on the very bottom. So double check, you don't want to skip any. And then you just one at a time. And it's a bit tedious, but just take your time. And then you just pick them up. And then put it back on your needle so that it's not twisted. And then you can look and see, you really can't even tell anything happened there. Now, sometimes when you're fixing your work like this and you made mistakes and you've been fussing with it, sometimes the stitches will look stretched out or a little bigger or a little smaller. Maybe you've pulled them tight, but
we go backwards for a little bit, Darrin.
I'm sorry?
We did end up with a question about unknitting, and I thought we might have a break, but I want to catch you before you go too far.
Okay.
Angel wants to know if you have a purl and then a knit on your needle, like if you're doing ribbing or seed stitch, how would you unknit those?
Well, let's see. So we'll do 2 purls and do 2 knits. Oops, sorry. And then let's do 2 purls. All right, and then I realized, oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. I was looking at the wrong line of my pattern. I didn't need to do that. So even with a purl, I was making my stitches going in this direction. So if I'm going to unknit them, I want to make sure I'm holding my needle in the same way as how I created those stitches. So all you do is you pull your working yarn. You don't really even need to pull your working yarn, but that's what opens up that space. You can see exactly where to go if you're not sure. But all you have to do is just go through the stitch below and then unravel it. In one way, I don't know if this makes sense to anyone else, but somebody once told me, like, this is the stitch, this is the mother, and this is the grandmother. And then you just go on down through the generations. So we're just going to go right down here, just one generation. And you go front to back. So it's the same if it's knitting or purling, but then with purling, your yarn ends up, you just kind of have to reposition your yarn. So front to back, unravel it, and then now I've got a knit, so just front to back, and then my yarn ends up in the back with the knit stitch, so it makes it a little easier to kind of keep going. And then purl, so I'm still going to approach it the same way. Now my yarn's in the front, which is fine, but it's easier for me if I kind of put it in the back. Purl. And then the next one is a knit. So you approach it the same way. And okay, any questions? So here's something that sometimes happens. Let's look at this. So this is called a float, and somehow I ended up not knitting this yarn, and it was carried from this stitch, skipping this one, going over to that one. And that's going to be a problem in my finished work. And if I were to notice something like this close to where, like, say I'm knitting this row and I come across and I'm like, wait a minute, that stitch didn't get knitted. So what I would do is I would just take this bar and put that on my needle and just pick it up like that. Like I wouldn't need to get the crochet hook out. But, so depending on how comfortable you feel with it, you can use a crochet hook or just pick it up with your needle. Right, does that help? Does that answer the question about purls?
I think that clarifies it. Thank you.
All righty. Okay, so we were talking about picking up dropped knit stitches. Were there any questions about picking up a dropped knit stitch? Nope, we're good. All right, so let's talk about picking up a dropped purl stitch. Okay, so let this slip off my needle. I don't want to do two in a row. So look, we've got our purls now. So it's important to be able to pick up a knit stitch and a purl stitch. So we want to find this active loop, first thing. And if you're out somewhere and you don't really have time to fix it and you see that this happened, immediately you would want to put something on this to kind of save it. So if you have a safety pin, or you could put a stitch marker on it just to keep it from unraveling any farther. So that's the first thing you'd want to do, would be to secure it. And then when it comes time to fix it, you'll be ready. And so when we create a purl stitch, we enter the yarn, enter the loop from above. When we do a knit stitch, we come from the bottom. Purl stitch, we dive in from the top. So when we're fixing a purl stitch, we have to approach it in a different way as well. So we're going to approach it from above. So we take our crochet hook and we go down and we find the very last, making sure we're not skipping any. And so our crochet hook's going underneath of all of our rungs. And then we go through the active loop like that. And then we take the first rung of our ladder, it jumps over the active loop and it lands on the crochet hook. And then we pull it back through and we've picked up our purl, and that is now our active loop. We take the next one, it leapfrogs over the active loop, land on our crochet hook, then you hold the loop and then you pull it back through. Okay. Now, when I taught this class in person before, sometimes people would find it very hard to do this. And the problem they were having is that they were picking up their active loop like this. They were putting the active loop in the mouth of the hook, and then they would jump over, and then there's nothing to do. Like, I don't know what to do. So make sure that you are giving your self a place to work. So this is your workspace. This is your work table. So it has to jump over the loop and it has to land on the crochet hook. So we need this rung of the ladder is what's going to go in the mouth of the crochet hook. And then we pull that through. So remember, give yourself a lot of neck. So this is the neck of the crochet hook. So give yourself a lot of neck, plenty of place to work. Jump over it, it lands on the crochet hook, and then pull it back through. Because if you do this by mistake, then now you don't know what to do. Like I don't know what to do with that. There's nothing. So make sure you're giving yourself plenty of room to work. Okay. Any questions about that? How do we feel about picking up a purl?
Speaking of that crochet hook, Denise wanted to know, does it make a difference what size crochet hook you're using? And I answered in the
it
chat,
does,
but I
and
figured not everyone's reading.
What was it? So it does and it doesn't matter. Actually, I would have preferred to have a larger hook. I thought I had everything I needed, but I didn't grab my larger crochet hook. So I happen to have this small one handy, and it's working out just fine. But you want to make sure if you're working with something small like this, that you're not splitting your yarn. It's very easy to kind of split your yarn. So you want to make sure that you're not splitting your yarn. So it doesn't necessarily matter. I just have to be a little extra careful. You certainly would not want to use a crochet hook bigger than what your stitches are. So like I wouldn't want to use, I think this is I'm not sure what millimeter this is, but like you would want to make sure that your crochet hook is either the same size or smaller than your knitting needles. Because if you stretch out your stitches, then it could change the shape of the fabric in the front, like you could distort the way it's looking. So you should use a crochet hook that's the same size or smaller, but this one might be a little too small, but it works. I'm able to make it work. What do you think, Claire?
Yes, I think I gave the answer is you want it as a crochet hook that's close to, but no bigger than your knitting needle. And I
Yeah,
did say that I thought yours was a little too small and you were making it harder on yourself.
it is. I could do this you guys sitting here waiting, and I can make this work. So, but it's the same principle with a larger one or a smaller one. Sometimes you just have to use what's handy, right? But yeah, I would prefer probably a little bigger than one. But if I were on the knit side, I'm sorry, on the purl side, and I were working on stockinette stitch, and I dropped a stitch like that, I would turn it over and then pick up my stitches on the knit side, because I think it's much easier to pick up knits. But it's important to learn how to pick up both, because sometimes you have alternating stitches, you have knits and purls that alternate. So you do need to learn how to pick up both. And you can have that situation if you have garter stitch, okay? Or seed stitch, or other stitch patterns that have knits and purls. So when you make garter stitch, you're knitting every stitch on every row. But because you're turning your work back and forth, working on the front and working on the back, of course, you end up with knits and purls. So these raised edges, these raised ridges are your purls. And then these lower, like the valleys, are your knit stitches. So you have a mountain, which is a purl, and then you go down into valley, which is a knit. So purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. So you basically get stripes. And if you stretch it apart like this, you can see it a little better. So every other stitch is a knit and every other one is a purl, which makes it a little tricky. And this is certainly not my favorite thing to do. But here, I'm going to work my way into the middle. And we're going to unravel. So if you drop a stitch off of your knitting, the thing people feel like once you drop a stitch, then you've got this wild and crazy stitch that's just going to run as fast as it can. But knitting doesn't really want to unravel, and it doesn't really unravel so easily. You can see I'm kind of forcing these stitches to unravel because the yarn's a little fuzzy, and all the fuzzy bits kind of grab onto each other. So, you know, your knitting doesn't really unravel quite as easily as, you know, we all think that it does. All right. So that looks like a big mess, and it is kind of a big mess. So the first thing you want to do is you want to just take a minute and decide what you're looking at. So you kind of want to sort out exactly what you're looking at. So what do we know? We already know that these ridges, these mountains and these ridges are purl stitches, and these valleys are knit stitches. So we know that. And so if we see these ladders that are coming out of these purl ridges, they must be purls, right? So we can figure out that they are purls because they're coming out of the purl ridges. And then underneath, the lower ones are the knits because they're coming out of those little valleys that are created by the knit stitch. Easy. So now we figured out what we're looking at, and we know how to pick up a knit and we know how to pick up a purl. So what we have to do is decide what is the first stitch. So if I look at this one, I can see that looks like to me that is a knit stitch. And the first rung of my ladder is coming out of the purl ridges. So that's a purl stitch. So I'm right. So that's a knit stitch and that's a purl stitch. So don't just jump right in and think, oh, I know what's happening, and just start randomly picking up stitches. You know, take a second to double check what you're seeing. And I'm going to enter the stitch from above. And I'm going to enter my active loop. Give yourself plenty of neck. Jump over it, and then I'm going to pull that through. Okay. And now I have to reapproach because the next one is a knit. So take it out and enter the stitch this way. And I'm going to pick up my knit stitch, which I guess it's not any easier, but to me, it just seems so much easier. And then the next one is a purl. Claire, do you find it hard picking up purl stitches, or is it just me? It's not hard, but I mean, knits are easier, right?
Yeah, it's a lot easier for knits.
So you just have to reapproach and reposition yourself every row because every row is, they're alternating. Okay. And then look at, see what you're doing and make sure everything's lining up. It's a good idea to stop every, couple of stitches and just look and see and make sure everything looks all right. So now I want to show you what we do. It's a little trick I can show you to make it easier. So this is a double-ended crochet hook. It has a hook on both sides. So there's a hook on that side and there's a hook on this side. And this is a tool, it's used for Tunisian crochet in the round is actually what this is for. I do not know how to do Tunisian crochet in the round. I've never done it before, but this tool can also come in very handy for knitting. So you enter. So all of my purl stitches are on the top and all of my knit stitches are on the bottom. So it's almost like a tunnel, okay? So you enter your active loop, it jumps over, pull it through, and then you don't have to take your hook out to pick up the knit. So you can see if you happen to have one of these on hand and you have to pick up garter stitch, it comes in very handy. Any questions? Did I skip one?
What would happen, say, if you accidentally skipped a ladder like that, or if you got off track and started picking up knits where they needed to be purls?
Okay, well, that just did that. So let's look. So let me do it more, make it a little bit more obvious. Okay, so I wasn't paying attention. Maybe the cat was doing something, or if you have kids, they were asking you questions, or maybe your husband or boyfriend said something silly. And now I've got it on. So look, I've picked up 3 knit stitches in a row. Let's see if you can see that. You can kind of see that right there. Like you've picked up. So it's, I mean, nothing horrible is going to happen, but you can just see that if you left it like that, it's better than a dropped stitch, right? But it doesn't show up that much, but it's certainly not right. So not such a crisis, not the end of the world. You've probably endured worse than that. Any other questions? Am I doing it wrong? I'm doing it wrong again. Oh, I didn't go down far enough. All right, let's go down far enough to fix that. All right, so while I'm fussing with this, do we have any other questions? See, I've split my yarn because this crochet hook's a little small. Okay, and then you just pull it all the way through. And when you put it back on your hook, you want to make sure that you're putting the right leg, the right side of the loop facing you, put it on, and then you will not have any twists. And normally I wouldn't have a knot in my work, but for a practice swatch. And so let's look at it. I didn't do it right. See, look, even I, as somebody that knows how to do this, I kind of did a little mistake, but that's how it looks if you make a mistake. And then you just drop down and fix it, that's all. Okay. Any questions? Let me show you that so you can kind of see what it looks like. Oh, I see what happened. See, that's what happened. I forgot a loop. I missed that one when I was demonstrating, and I got off track and messed up. So that's why it's very important to always make sure you're not, can you guys see that? That you're not skipping any of those ladders, or else it'll set you off track. Okay, any questions? How we doing, Claire? I'm always surprised when nobody has questions.
Well, we've got a question, but I'm not sure if you have a swatch ready to show this. It's going back to the unknitting again. Say if you were doing like an eyelet pattern and you had a yarn over between two stitches, what would happen when you got to that yarn over?
Well, I mean, any stitch that you have, if you have an SSK or if you have, let me just turn this, we'll just have a short row. Let me do a couple. Any stitch that you're doing, you just want to approach it the way I showed you. So you want to hold your work. So let's do a yarn over. So you want to hold your work the same way that you held it when you created the stitches, and you always want to enter the stitch front to back. And you just double check your stitch mount if you think you did it wrong. So front to back, front to back. And so here's my yarn over. So all I have to do is just unravel it. So front to back. And so my yarn over, I have a knit stitch, then a yarn over. So front to back. And then my yarn over, look, it's really easy. You don't have to do anything to unravel a yarn over. Does that make sense? But and no matter what you have, if it's a knit two together, if it's an SSK, so like a slip knit might be a little harder because we do slip the stitches as if to knit. So you just want to double check and make sure that you're not having them twisted. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Any other questions?
I'd say if that yarn over had been a few rows ago, or maybe just one or two rows, then you would have actual stitches that you would be unknitting until you got to that row where you'd made the yarn over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like if the yarn over was the row down?
Yeah.
Well, you have to ask yourself, we're going to talk about some other ways to, this swatch is a mess. I've done a lot of mistakes on this swatch to demonstrate with, but if you want to unknit, several rows, or maybe you want to do something that I'm going to be showing you here later on. But for the most part, it's just the same thing. Once you get to the yarn over, it doesn't matter like if it was 5 rows back or 10, once you get to the yarn over, you're going to it'll just unravel, right? Am I not understanding the question? Because when you get to the yarn over and you unknit it, you're just taking it off the needle basically, and it just becomes slack, right? Exactly. Or am I missing something?
Yeah. I think sometimes it's a little more frightening maybe because that yarn over is making a big hole in your knitting.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're unknitting, say like the yarn over was 2 rows down, the stitch above that yarn over tends to be a little bit more open as well. And so it might be harder to see where to go into, or you might just go down into the yarn over rather than the stitch above it.
Yeah, and then when you unravel that stitch that you're working on, you can, just kind of, if it doesn't feel right, you can just take a second and double check and make sure that you're unraveling the right thing. So it comes with practice. I think, if you practice, you'll be able to probably figure it out that way. The learning really happens, you know, once you're using it, once you're doing it in your hand. You know, you can watch the demonstrations, but I think the learning really happens when you're doing it, when you're holding it in your hand. But just if you remember to always, you know, unknit, you want to hold your work in the same direction you held it when you made your stitches. And you want to always enter the stitch from front to back. Other than that, Claire, there's any other advice on how to do it, or?
I think just like you said, practice and patience.
Yes, patience is a whole other thing. All right, so if you let a stitch drop off of the edge, that is just a big mess, right? So, so now you're going to think, oh, wait a minute, I know how to pick up a drop stitch. So you're just going to go through and pick them up. Not splitting your yarn. Pick up all my drop stitches, put it back on the needle. That doesn't look so good, right? Clearly something is not right. Let's try that again. So the thing you have to realize on the edge stitches is that each one of these strands of yarn is involved in a row. So you've got this row of your knitting, which is this strand of yarn, and then it loops around and it re-enters your knitting in the row above. So this strand of yarn belongs to this row, and this strand of yarn belongs to this row. So these loops are all 2 stitches. So each one of these loops counts as 2 rows, not just 1 row. So how you do that, you have to pick up each side of the loop. So if you put your finger in the loop and you pick up the bottom, first leg, and then the second leg. And the reason I put my finger in it is to kind of keep both of those legs visible, because if you don't, if you just do it like this, then it's like, where's the other one? And I can see it right here, but if you're not experienced doing this, you might not see where it went. Okay, so put your finger in the loop. You got 2 legs there, so you're going to pick up the first one, and then the second one is right there for me. Okay. Put your finger in that loop, pick up the first one, and then pick up the second one. And then there's my working yarn, so I may as well go ahead and pull that through my loop. And then pop that back on, making sure that the right leg goes on facing me. And then it looks pretty good. And it looks a little fussy, like somebody's been, but after, the thing about knitted stitches, knitting and purls, the fabric wants to be even. So if you stretch it out a little bit this way or that way, the tension in your work will even out. So even if you like snag and you pull, you can kind of work that back in. So by the time you've finished your project and after you've washed it or blocked it, these stitches that look a little, see, they're already kind of falling back into place just from that. So then if you've stretched out stitches a little bit while you're fixing it, they'll probably go back into shape unless if something really extreme happens. Okay. Any questions about that? Picking up a drop stitch on the edge. No? Alrighty then. We're kind of getting through everything pretty quick today.
Oh, see, now you just cursed us, Darrin.
Oh, and I love the questions, so I'm ready.
We do have a couple of questions. I think you might be covering this next about how to rip out like whole rows at a time and then how to do lifelines.
That is the exact next thing that's on my list. So we will, but before I go on to that, I just want to make sure that everybody feels good about, so we did unknitting. We did unknitting and unpurling. We did, talked about picking up a dropped stitch or a dropped purl. We looked at twisted stitches, make sure everybody understands a twisted stitch. We did a dropped edge stitch, and we picked up stitches and garter stitch. Any questions about any of those topics before we progress to the next? So we're good?
I think we're good.
All righty, so, but if you do have questions, don't hesitate. I love the questions. All right, so this is a swatch. So pretend maybe you're making a sweater, maybe it's going to be a pillow, maybe, you know, who knows what it is. But, and I did this swatch with some Fair Isle just to kind of demonstrate. So like if you are working on a project and you had to do something, maybe it's lace, maybe it's a panel of cables, could be any number of things going on right here. Something that was a little hard and, you know, takes a lot of work, and you don't want to ruin it. You don't want to risk ruining it. So you finished it and you're like, oh, finished that. I don't, you know, I'm very pleased to be through with it. And then coming up next is going to be something else equally as difficult that, you know, you might make mistakes on because maybe it's not something you like doing or you've done before. So what you can do to protect this so that you don't have to worry about anything happening to this is you can put it's called a lifeline, and it's like a safety net. So what you do is, and you can see here, I've got this piece of thread going through all of my stitches. So if you plan it out in advance, because you finish this and you know the next step is something complicated that you might mess up. So you put your lifeline in, because if you knit the next section and you make big mistakes, you want to rip it out, but you don't want to unknit. Like, say it's a sweater and you have 200 stitches going around and you have to go back 15 rows. So you don't want to unknit all of those stitches because that's more tedious than knitting. So you don't want to deal with that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how it's called frogging. And that's basically just ripping out your work and going back to where the problem happened and fixing it. But it's very scary. It's a very scary thing in knitting to just, you know, take all like 200 stitches off of your needles and start ripping it, because then you have 200 stitches later on that you're going to have to put back on your needles, and maybe they're unraveling at that point, or you'll get them twisted, or, you know, any number of things could happen. So it's a little scary to do that. So what we're going to, and if you didn't put this lifeline in advance, because I've got this thread in here, and if I rip it out, if I just start ripping it, what's going to happen is it's going to get down to this row of where this thread is, and it's not going to be able to unravel past that. So because I put this thread in, I'm free to take my needles out, have all of these active loops, and as they start unraveling and I start ripping them, then once it gets to this row, it'll stop. And so my work is protected, my lifeline or my safety net has been successful. And what this is, somebody told me this once, and I don't know, to use dental floss, because it's very strong. It's not going to, I mean, it's really hard to break it. It's very strong, and it's not going to leave any fuzz behind. So if you put yarn in there, it might leave fuzz behind. And I don't know, do you use dental floss, or what do you use, Claire?
I
If
have
you're
more than enough scrap yarn that I just use that.
scrap yarn, I don't know, somebody told me that. I guess you don't want to use mint flavored, you don't want it minty fresh, but I just thought it was clever. So that's what I did here. But if you did not plan ahead, and let's say you've knitted up here and you've made horrible mistakes and you want to rip it out, then there's another way to put in, it's putting in a lifeline after the fact. So with the dental floss, what you would do is, well, on this needle, you would just take a large-eyed blunt needle, put your dental floss or your yarn on it, and just go through each stitch, pulling the yarn through as you're going, and that makes it very easy to enter, to put on a lifeline. But let me show you how to do it after the fact. So let's look at some stitches first and see exactly what we're looking at. So this is a knit stitch right here. And it looks like that V. Everybody talks about in knitting the V shape. And you've got the right leg and the left leg. So you've got two legs, open at the top, and they come together at the bottom, and it's shaped like a V. Okay. This, however, is not a knit stitch. It looks very similar, but it's shaped like an A or an upside down V. So what we're looking at here is half of one stitch and half of another stitch. So we don't want to be looking at that. We want to make sure we're looking at these V's, okay? And when we had a drop stitch, what was the rule? We always wanted to make sure that we put the right leg on the needle facing us, right? So we want to make sure the right leg is facing us. So when you're putting a lifeline through, you want to make sure that you're using a knitting needle that's smaller than the needle you're working with. And I find if it's a lot smaller, it's better. What do you think, Claire? Should it be a lot smaller or just a little smaller? What's easier?
I try to use one that's at least 2 sizes smaller.
Yeah, so if it's a little smaller, it always seems to me that it works out a little better. Okay. So I've got this, I put this red stripe in here on purpose so that you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the V shapes, okay, these V shapes. And you want to make sure that the right leg is always facing forward. And the edge stitch is usually pretty tricky because you see how it always wants to curl under. So it's sometimes kind of hard to find it on the edge stitch, but just kind of take your time and find that. And then because I have this red stripe, I can follow that across and it's quite easy. So you just want to skip the left leg and then pick up the right leg. Skip the left leg, pick up the right leg. So you're just picking up the right leg of that knit stitch and putting that on your needle first. And so if the right leg is facing us, then once we unravel our knitting and get back down to this point, then our stitches are going to be on the needle correctly and our stitch mounts will not be twisted. And then you'll just be able to start knitting and you won't have to worry about your stitch mounts. So just kind of keep going like that. And you can see how even everything is. You've got these diagonal lines kind of all leaning the same direction and they're all spaced out nicely. So everything's looking very nice. So let's keep going. See how good we're doing. We're doing such a good job. Oh, so that doesn't look so good, right? So we've got all of these that look really nice. And then how come there's a big space there? And why are these so close together? And some of these are leaning one way and some are leaning another way. So that's not right. Let's take it back and we'll be more careful. And we're going to look for that V and make sure we're picking up just the right one. And if you do this right, it's a very beautiful thing because once you're ready to start knitting, everything will be in the right position for you. But if you do it wrong, it's still pretty good because what's going to happen is once you unravel it, it's going to stop, right here. But let's say you picked up the wrong side of the leg, or maybe you went up a row by mistake. I have this red line as a guide, so it makes it very easy. But if you don't have a stripe like that, maybe you're going to go up a row by mistake and not realize it. But what will happen when you unravel it is it'll just stop there, and you can just unknit your stitches one by one, and and kind of get it back on track. And that'll still be a lot better than trying to unknit the entire portion that you're unraveling, and it will still protect your work from all coming apart. So I've got my lifeline in place, and I'm going to take my working needle out and I'm going to unravel it. And because my lifeline's in place, I don't have to worry about anything. And the reason it's called frogging is because you rip it, rip it, rip it, and it sounds like a frog. Ribbit, 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 rip it, rip it, rip it. And you just keep going, and you just keep ripping it, rip it, rip it, rip it. And my stitches are not just hanging loose, unsupervised, and something happened there. So they're not going to unravel, and I don't have to worry. Any questions about putting on a lifeline? I don't know what I did over here. Any other questions about anything we did today? We all ready to go out and start fixing drop stitches for all your friends? That's pretty much everything we have to cover today in class. I have about 6 minutes left, so if anyone does have any questions.
While everybody thinks of their questions, I'll remind you that we are recording this class. So if you need to go back and watch it again, to review anything we've covered, that'll be up on the Michael's YouTube channel in about 24 to 48 hours. I'll go ahead and put the links and the handout in the chat.
Okay. All right, so if there are no questions, then that's pretty much it for class today. We're going to have another class next week, and it's actually next week is weaving. We're going to do weaving next week. So, all right, anything else before we go?
I'm going to go ahead and put the handout in the chat again in case anybody missed it. And then, yes, if you want to join us next week, we are going to be doing something a little bit different, a different craft. We're covering tapestry weaving. So if you've got more yarn to use up and you want to learn a different craft to use it with, go ahead and take that. And then we have another class in May coming up, May 23rd. If you know how to crochet and want to join us to learn how to make a granny square market bag, just in time for those summer farmers markets. There we go.
I still need to finish the handles, but. So next week we have weaving. So even if you don't have a loom, don't worry, because I'm going to show you how to make a loom out of cardboard. So if you have some cardboard and some glue hanging out, you can make a loom. So, and once you get going with this, and if you have any questions or run into any problems, you can send me a direct message on either Instagram or Facebook. I don't mind questions. I love to help out. So if you run into any questions and you need additional help, on Instagram, my name is Mr. Woolly Bear, M-I-S-T-E-R, Woolly Bear spelled out. And then if you, on Facebook, it's just my name, so, and my picture's there, so you'll recognize me. So yeah, don't hesitate to send any pictures. I'm sorry, don't send any questions that you have. And if you do make a project or you have any success with this and you want to post a picture and tag me in it, that'd be great too. So, right. Anything else, Claire?
Hopefully we see you all in class again soon.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming to class. Have a great day.